It's time for some more dual wielding. Welcome to the attic dungeon. My name is Sam, and if you like attacking with two weapons and worshipping demons, I'm here to help you with everything. Yes, self-promotion time. You know how much I love this. It is only because of your likes, comments, and other positive interactions that I can rise to the top of silly people talking to themselves in an attic. So thank you for your support. And don't forget, Day of Dungeons is coming in less than a month. Huzzah! We are completely sold out. All of our normal tickets are gone. Our visitor tickets are gone. It is going to be amazing, and I'm looking forward to it. Yes, I hope to see some of you there. Now let's go on to the show and start chopping stuff. Yes, dual wielding, the suboptimal way of fighting in melee combat. Nonetheless, an incredibly present fantasy in role-playing games and a very fun fantasy to fulfill. The good news is that since the release of Tahsa's Cauldron of Everything, two-weapon fighting, as it is called in game, has gained some nice boost. First off, you have the Fighting Initiate feat, which allows anyone to spend a feat to pick up any fighting style, including two-weapon fighting, which will still give you a bonus attack that you can do as part of the two-weapon fighting action, the same damage bonus as your main weapon receives, which is not the case if you don't have this feat. Secondly, 3 martial feats came into game, and one of my viewers called Francesco Maria Gracelli was so kind as to point me to these feats. I had kind of forgotten about them because it's been a while since I played a pure martial character. You have the Slasher, Crusher and Piercer feats. Those all activate on weapon hits of a certain type, well, damage type, but these activate on each hit. Each hit has a potential benefit, so hitting people with more weapons is going to be more beneficial for these feats. They will go off more often. If you miss your first attack, you got another one. And they all have a critical effect. So the more attacks, the more chances to crit, the more chances to pop the critical effect. That's why, as he rightly indicated, they're very good for my Crit Fisher build in my previous dual wielding video, but these feats are really good for any martial character. They also give a +1 strength or dexterity, so it's all good. Those, however, are not going to cut it for my build today. Because of the Fighting Initiate feat and the fact that now any class can basically pick up two-weapon fighting style, that is a mouthful. Feat Fighting Initiate two-weapon fighting style. My god. So any class can pick it up. So there's a few classes that suddenly are very potent dual wielders. I've already proven a paladin can be an absolute pain in the behind because they're so Nova built with Smite. Adding an actual decent dual wielding feat to a paladin is going to be a lot of fun. But I already built a paladin with dual wield, so let's not go there. I was obviously thinking about an artificer because making your own magical weapons, and you could easily make 2 magical weapons as an artificer at the feet and start slapping stuff. Battlesmith, for example, is going to be your subclass. Too easy. And I do too much artificer stuff anyway. So I thought, let's do something different. Let's take a Warlock. Warlocks also have a very potent way of building a dual wielding character, thanks to the Fighting Initiate feat and thanks to some features that were already present. So a 2-weapon fighting style Warlock is what we're going to build today. As per usual, I will build up all the way up to level 8. Afterwards, there's a slew of options, both in Invocations and in feats that you can pick up. For example, the dual wielder feat, which I always highly advise for any 2-weapon fighting character, is not yet included in this build. For those who forgot, the feat gives you +1 armor class and allows you to dual wield larger weapons, which is good. It's perfect. It's all that we want as a dual wielder, but I'm doing different stuff here. So that feat is, for example, a good level 12 feat for this build. Let's start with our race. We're going to be a Bugbear Warlock. Maybe not the first pick in your brain there, but it's going to be a very nice one for indeed any dual wielding character. Why? Well, the Bugbear, apart from being a very stealthy race and having long arms, if I'm not mistaken, they still have that. They still have reach. So when they attack, they can attack 1 square further. So you have a 5 feet extra range when attacking as well, on your turn only, not on attack of opportunities. But that's a nice thing to have. You can smack someone from a square away. They also have this wonderful thing that before I go to the wonderful thing, having 5 foot extra range means a lot more mobility, because you can stay out of range of most attacks of opportunity. So you're easily able to maneuver around the battlefield, smack people from further away that they can smack you. Hence you can move away again if danger would become too high. That's why that thing is very important for a melee character. But there's also a sort of a sneak attack feature that they have, that when you attack a creature that has not yet taken a turn in the current combat, you add 2d6 to any attack roll, not just the first. That means if you hit with your first weapon, you add 2d6, which is a great sword by the way, to your attack. You slap with your second weapon, add another 2d6, smack them with double great swords on top of whatever weapon damage you're already packing. Since combat in 5e is relatively short, it's not like you're playing those 15 round combats in this game a lot. This feature sees a lot of use, and it's a good feature. It will be relevant for about 20% of combat. In my personal opinion, most combats don't really last longer than 5 to 6 rounds, so this will be, I don't know, 18 or 20% of the time this will be active. So that's good stuff for a racial feature, and 2d6 really is good damage. Obviously, a Warlock who wants to smack stuff is going to be a Hexblade. Hexblade gives us a few important advantages. First off, medium armor and shields. We get those proficiencies, and martial weapons, also good. Secondly, we can infuse one weapon with the essence of our patron, and that weapon, we can attack with that weapon based on our charisma rather than on strength or dexterity. Also good, because charisma is also a casting stat. We are going to cast some spells at some point, so focusing that all on one stat, amazing stuff. Then there is Hexblade's Curse, which is something hex-ish that you can cast as a Hexblade Warlock. Once per short or long rest, you can target an enemy with a bonus action. They take extra damage from all your weapon attacks equal to your proficiency bonus, so all your weapon attacks, 1 and 2, and potential extra attacks later on. You crit easier on them, 19 or 20 will crit, and you heal a bit if you kill them. Oh well, that's it. Not that relevant, we're mainly here for the extra damage and the crit fishing. It's a bonus action, so it's obviously going to clash a bit with the Hex spell. The further this build goes down the road, I think the less it will use the actual Hex spell, as most Warlocks should, by the way. What else is there to know about level 1? Oh yes, of course, our ability score. With the free use of ability scores, I bumped Constitution and Charisma, not Dexterity, because we don't use our Dexterity to attack. I think +2 is good enough for the medium armor, so 14 you can obtain that without any bonuses. That can give us a 16 in Constitution and 16 in Charisma, making us sturdier on the front line, making our concentration saves better, making our weapon attacks better. Obviously, higher dexterity would also mean higher initiative, giving us a higher chance of being able to smack something with the sneak attack of the bugbear, but I think having the extra range, a decent mobility as a bugbear is going to allow you to do that most of the time. What spells rather, and cantrips do I want? You don't have to take Eldritch Blast. You can if you want a ranged alternative, a nice safe alternative if the enemy is out of range. Green Flame Blade looks like a nice one for AoE damage. Booming Blade if you want some control, are all good stuff. Add something like Mage Hand, you know, standard cantrip stuff, really. Spell-wise, Hex for those first 2 levels is going to be a good choice, because you will only be able to properly dual wield at level 3. You can dual wield right now, anyone can, but you don't have any advantage whatsoever. So you're attacking with an offhand weapon that is not charisma based off your 14 dexterity that you will have, and it will not have any bonus damage. So that's not ideal. Casting Hex might be better. So Hex and something like Armor of Agathis is nice for a bit of extra hit points and a bit of damage on return if they hit you. Those are decent options. Hex will obviously contend later on with a bonus action for attacking, and with Hexblade's Curse as well. Now ideally pre-combat you can cast Hex or Hexblade Curse, spend your first turn casting Hex, attack, and then once you start dual wielding decently, attack all the time, and the damage of Hex and Hexblade's curse will stack on each weapon, potentially with some nice sneak attack bonus damage from your Bugbear. There's a very high burst potential in the first turn if you can precast some spells, but that is all but guaranteed, so don't count on it. Then we come to level 2, you get an extra spells, pick something that you like. You're going to see that most of the spells that I pick in this video are very survival or melee combat bonus related. But do not hesitate to pick up other spells. Really, I'm just showing you all the spells that are relevant for the build. But as always, I invite you to diversify. Invocations then. Good news about Invocations is that you can swap one out every level. So we're going to take 2 that right now are going to offer survivability and better concentration. Since we are in melee combat all the time, having Eldritch Mind is a logical choice. Eldritch Mind gives you advantage on your concentration saves. You're almost always going to be wanting to cast concentration spells as a Warlock because you have very little spell slots of a high level, so you want to stretch those out. So having advantage on those saves, very important. And picking up False Life, it's called Fiendish Vigor, for now is a good choice. The False Life spell gives you, what is it, your charisma bonus plus d4 of temporary hit points. You can cast it at will for free, so pre-combat you can just always top up your hit points. This is actually going to increase your hit pool with max 30% per cast right now. We will swap it out later on, but for level 2 it's going to be a very good pickup. Level 3 is much more interesting for us because this is where the dual wielding actually starts. Level 3 has the pardon me. Level 3 has Pact of the Blade. This means we can separately from our Hex weapon, which you already have, indicate another weapon to be our Pact weapon. You can make your Hexblade and your Pact weapon the same weapon, but you don't have to, and we're not going to. Because any Pact weapon, as you can read in the Hex Warrior class feature, any Pact weapon will gain the same benefits as your Hex weapon does. So a Pact weapon will also benefit from being charisma based. So now you can have 2 weapons that are charisma based, which is obviously most important for your build. And your Hexblade, your Pact weapon rather, is going to gain additional benefits from Invocations that we're going to pick up. So actually your Hexblade weapon will be the weakest of the 2, your Pact weapon will be the strongest one, so that should be the one that you use for once you get extra attack. For extra attack, you're also going to be only able to extra attack because of having a Pact weapon, so that kind of speaks for itself. And your Hexblade weapon will always be your offhand weapon for your bonus attacks. This also means that if you find a magic weapon, you should make that your Hexblade weapon, because your Pact weapon is going to immediately receive a +1 bonus from a swap out invocation that we're doing. Namely, we're going to swap out the Fiendish Vigor False Life thingy. Already it lasted for the full 1 level for improved Pact weapon, which is going to make your Pact weapon act as if it is a +1 magical weapon. So +1 to attack rolls, +1 to damage rolls, and it acts as a magical weapon for overcoming resistances. This is very ideal for us already. Level 3 always includes level 2 spells for the Warlock as well. Good options, Hold Person or Mirror Image. Hold Person, if somebody cannot move, you always have advantage. So Hold Person, if it hits, gives you a lot of advantage with all of your attacks. It's pretty good. And Mirror Image is a defensive spell that doesn't use concentration, because there's also Blur in the same spell list here, but Blur requires concentration, whereas Mirror Image does not. So it would open your spells if you still have Hex running, because the higher you cast Hex, the longer it keeps running. Then you don't lose Hex while still enhancing your defenses. So that's why I took Mirror Image. Yeah, that's most of that. Level 4, obviously, we're going to pick up the 2-weapon fighting style Fighting Initiate feat here. So from now on, both your Pact weapon and your Hexblade weapon are going to deal bonus damage based on your charisma, when you hit an enemy, along with any potential damage from Hex, from Hexblade's curse, or other stuff that I might throw at you here. So this is really good actually already. Starting from level 5, our journey becomes increasingly simple for a few levels. Our 5th level invocation is going to be Thirsting Blade. It says that if you're attacking with a Pact weapon, you get the extra attack feature. That's good, an extra attack, huzzah, more choppy choppy. Level 5 also means level 3 spells. Counterspell is a good clutch save, but because you have very little spell slots, I'm a bit opposed, except if you're getting frequent short rest, because for example, you have a bard with Catnap in your party and you get to take a few extra short rests, then Counterspell can be good. Hypnotic Pattern is always a great crowd control spell to make your fights easier. If you want more damage on your weapons, it's going to be Spirit Shroud. It's a bit similar, it's not similar to Hex, as in instead of targeting one enemy that takes extra d6 damage from each attack, all of your attacks are going to deal 1d8 damage extra in necrotic damage and will prevent healing on the target. So this is nice because instead of having to use additional bonus actions to move your spell around, your Hex, this will buff you for an entire fight and you can just chop around killing people. So that's some added action economy advantage there. Fly, always great for mobility. Stay away from Shadowblade. It might be tempting because you think, look, a stronger sword to attack with 2d8 base damage is really good. Imagine if I crit, la-di-da-di-da-di. Yes, but it will work off your dexterity instead of your charisma, since it's normal attacks that you're doing with it, and it's not your Pact weapon, it's not your Hexblade weapon. So there is that. For now, the difference is minimal because we're still at 14 dex, 16 charisma, but later on the difference is going to be bigger and more impactful. So I would stay away from it. Level 6 is a weird level. You get this weird spectre pet. I don't know why they insisted on giving the Hexblade a pet, but there you are. You have it. Utilize it as you see fit. Level 7. Level 4 spells, of course. Something like Shadow of Moil is very good. It makes you defensively stronger because you become heavily obscured, and it provides you with reflective damage. If something would manage to hit you, they take damage. I think it's 2d8. I'm checking it to be sure. Something. Yeah, whenever a creature within 10 feet even, so which is funnily enough the same range that you're smacking stuff, hits you with an attack, they get 2d8 necrotic damage. There's no save included, they just take the damage. So this is actually pretty nice. You become harder to hit, but should they hit you, they get smacked in the face. But level 7 also means Invocations, and I give you two options there. Either you take Eldritch Smite. Eldritch Smite works just like Paladin Smite. If you spend you can only do it once per turn though. You can spend the spell slot and you get 1d8 plus a number of d8s equal to the level of the spell slot in extra damage. Pretty sure it's necrotic damage as well here. Which is great on crits. You're crit fishing now and then with Hexblade Curse. If you get that nice big juicy crit, don't hesitate to blow a spell slot on Eldritch Smite and add quite a lot of damage because your spell slots are always of your highest potential level. But in other cases, it will not measure up to, let's say, a good Hypnotic Pattern cast. Hypnotizing 3 enemies outweighs crit killing one of them. So it's because we have some freedom in our invocation on this level, you might as well just take a nice utility invocation, for example. You could take Eldritch Smite and keep it in your pocket for when you deem it necessary. Another nice option on the defensive side is Tomb of Levistus, which basically encases you as a reaction. You can encase yourself in an ice block. You gain temporary hit points equal to 10 times your Warlock level, so 70 in this case. You do gain vulnerability to fire. It lasts until the start of your next turn. The trigger is you take damage. So when you take damage, you can encase yourself in ice, protect yourself until your turn is up again. It's a nice Hail Mary button in case things get too hairy. Those are the options that I give you. And then level 8, very simple, increase your charisma please. Yes, both your weapons need it, your spells need it. We ignored it at level 4, up with the charisma. And that's the first 8 levels of your 2-weapon fighting Hexblade Warlock. At higher levels, if I hadn't mentioned it yet, the dual wielder feat is still great. You gain an extra additional armor class because you're at 17. If you don't have anything fancy armor wise, you're at 17 with half plate here. And you can use bigger weapons for dual wielding. You can, instead of using those 2 short swords that I suggest in the build, you can use rapiers or long swords or whatever. And with the bigger weapons also come the options of later on picking up one of those cool martial feats that activate on every attack that you do, or just pump your charisma to 20 as well. That is going to be useful as well. There you are, Hexblade, Choppy Chop, Warlock, all done. I'll hope to see you all again in 2 weeks in the Attic Dungeon.